Thank you for listening to Mindseed Radio. At Mindseed, it's our goal to get to the roots of our guests' minds and grow with their words. Today's guest is an author. He's a filmmaker, environmentalist, visual artist, and cultural activist, Chris Jordan. Chris has the ability to take some of the dark parts of this world and create an aid, a visual aid, for us to really understand what's not easily understood. In his depiction of Van Gogh's skull with a cigarette, Chris masterfully edits together 200,000 cartons of cigarettes, equal to the number of Americans who die from cigarette smoke every 6 months. In his Bill Franklin piece, he follows the same theme, and he digitally edits 125,000 $100 bills. That was the amount the government spent each hour on the war in Iraq in 2007. In his interview, we talk of love, light, forgiveness, the environment, and of course his beautiful film, Midway, where he follows albatrosses in an island so remote you and I can't even understand. But in this segment, we're trying to understand. What you're about to listen to was something that I asked specific from Chris. Share something with our audience, anything you want, a time in your life that we can listen to and exist in with you. I ask you, the listener, as a part of the Mindseed family, to listen, feel, and grow while you listen to the wonderful story that Chris Jordan is about to share with you. Anything you like, you know?
Oh my, yeah, I know exactly what story I want to tell, and I'm probably going to cry when I tell it, because it's about my mother. I had the incredible privilege of being with her as she lived her last couple of months of her life. And she grew up in World War II. She was a war baby. She was British, and she lived in London, and her earliest memories as a child were the bombs dropping overhead as Hitler's bombers flew over and tried to decimate London. And during that time in England, they were cut off from the rest of the world, and so everything was rationed. They didn't have enough food, and so everything was rationed. And so her entire life, she had this rationing mentality. She could never embrace abundance. Everything was sort of a thinness in her, in the way she served food and the way she gave out love. And one of the things that they rationed the most of all, that was literally worth its weight in gold in England during World War II, was butter. And so as my mother got thinner and thinner, dying from pancreatic cancer, when she finally passed, she weighed something like 63 pounds, and she became a skeleton. And every morning I would lift her out of her bed and bring her into the couch and lay her down on the couch. And she was so frail, it felt like her bones were going to break. She was so light, there was just nothing left of her. And a friend brought over a big bag of scones. And so every morning I would give my mom a scone for breakfast, and she didn't have much of an appetite. She would only eat a bite or two. And I would butter the scone. And one morning, maybe a week before she lost consciousness, she said, in her beautiful British accent, she said, "Christopher, would you please bring me the butter?" And I said, "Oh, would you like some more butter on your scone?" She said, "Yes, I would, but I'd like to butter it myself." And I said, "Okay," and I brought in the warm scone and the butter, and she cut a cube of butter off the stick of butter, this huge block of butter, and she mashed it into the scone, and she took a bite, and she said, "Do you know what? I've been skimping on butter for my entire life, and you know what? Fuck it." She said, "What's it going to do? Kill me? It's going to give me high cholesterol?" And from that moment, every morning, which was only maybe 4 or 5 more mornings before she was gone, I would bring in the scone and she would butter her scone herself with the most massive amount of butter. And on one of her very last days, I was sitting holding her hand, and she said, "Christopher, I don't think I'm a very wise person. I don't have a lot of wisdom to leave you with. But there is one thing. If you only remember one thing that I taught you, let it be this. You can have as much butter as you want."
You just heard Chris Jordan on Mindseed Radio. If you felt something while listening to his story, you will definitely connect to his film Midway. In our interview, Chris describes the beautiful nature of albatrosses.
On the far parts of Midway, you actually can encounter albatrosses that may have never seen a human. And yet, they aren't afraid of us. They're actually curious about us. And there's something about that is so deeply connected with just the wild part of my own self. It reminded me of the primal nature of curiosity. I mean, I think curiosity might be the deepest of all instincts, even below any kind of feeling. Like just the desire to know the other. Like, what is that thing? Who is that over there? What is that being? It's like a fundamental part of ourselves and a part of what it means to be a creature.
Absolutely. And their experience as a result of the damage that we are doing to our world.
On Midway, I couldn't help but grieve. It just happened there. And I put myself in that position. You know, I went when the birds were actually dying. Thousands and thousands of birds choking to death on plastic.
To learn more about Midway, go to midwayfilm.com. You can watch his TED Talk by going to TED.com and searching Chris Jordan. And stay tuned to Mindseed Radio. So together, we can exist with more people, hear more stories, and we can grow.